Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Hello, all. My name is Tamika. I'm the workforce specialist with San Bernardino County Workforce Development. And today we're going to cover quite a bit of information regarding resumes. So I will try to make this as user friendly. First off, how do you all feel about creating resumes? Yes, I can tell. Most of this whole idea of resumes can be a little bit stressful. But with practice, you will become not perfect, but you'll become more comfortable. And it's just a matter of time before you even get even better. Just practice makes perfect. So, pretty much today, we're going to be covering quite a bit of information. The goals today, we're going to be talking about the purpose of a resume, what recruiters want to see from a resume, and the types of resumes. We're also going to be talking about creating an updated resume for a current workforce. So, yes, resumes are still required. Some people think that it's okay just to apply and you don't need a resume, but that's not true. You do need a resume. This is going to be the key, the forefront for employers even taking a look at you. So, if we recap, the whole job search process are in steps. First, you have to apply to the job. Second, you have to create a resume. And if the resume is presentable and to the liking of the employer, then the next step is getting that interview. And then, voila, a job. So, how many seconds does it take to actually get that employer to even look at your resume? Or rather yet, how many seconds does it take for an employer to really look and select your resume among others? Can you take a guess? It takes 6 seconds for a recruiter to look and scan at a resume. This is because they're looking at specific keywords. And each resume should consist of keywords that are attractive to an employer. That being said, keywords go through what's called an applicant tracking software or system, which is called ATS. Okay. ATS is something that recruiters use to scan your resume for those keywords, the desirable keywords that they're looking for in a candidate. Some of the resume myths that I'd like to cover are as follows. Some people think that a resume has to be one page. It's not true. 3 page max. It's kind of hard to do a resume or write a resume if you have quite a bit of experience. Each resume is going to be tailored based on experience. So the myth of having just one page is out the door. That's not accurate. You can have more than one page. Also, the other myth that I'd like to talk about is that it has to be chronological. That's not true. Resumes are not a one size fit all. It does not have to be chronological. As you'll see in the upcoming slides, there are different types of resumes. And it doesn't always have to have your work history first. Okay. The other myth is one resume, again, does not fit all. This is not a one size fit all type of document because you're going to have different multiple positions and it's going to require different formatting. It's going to also require different strategies in composing this resume for an employer to look at you. So, one resume does not work for all. Okay. The other thing is a cover letter. Oh, I cannot stress this enough. Cover letters are not obsolete. They are definitely important, and this actually complements the resume. It's kind of like the bow tie to a present at Christmas time. So you definitely want a cover letter, and we'll go over this as well. Okay. So, what do recruiters want to see in a resume? Well, they want to see resumes that are tailored to the open position. They want to see skill sets that are first on a resume. And I highly suggest adding your skills first because this is a selling point. One thing I do see a lot is the use of an objective on a resume. In the professional world, you want a summary. A well written summary is what is going to get an employer to really look at your resume. No longer are objectives being used. An objective, for example, is seeking a job in a warehouse. No, something to this effect, and we'll see later on. A bilingual, meticulous professional with 5 years experience in logistics seeking an opportunity with ABC company. That is a summary and that is desirable to an employer. A resume that's simple and clearly laid out is very desirable, plenty of white space, making sure that your bullets are formatted just so, and also making sure that I can't stress this enough as well that there is a resume is free of spelling errors. So very important that you watch your grammar, very important that you watch the spelling, and very important that when it comes to your finished copy of a resume, that you definitely add a link at the top for a LinkedIn profile, a portfolio, or a website if you have it. And if you have any credentials, I highly also recommend putting that at the end of your name. What will get a resume rejected? Well, one is spell checks, a picture on a resume, a background, and experience that doesn't match the position, poorly written resume, and also keywords that are not trackable in the applicant tracking system. So again, you want a resume that's filled with keywords that are customized to the position that you want. Inappropriate content on social media, I think that's a self given. So, social media that does not portray you in the best light, that is not professional. You want social media that is attractive, that is marketable, where an employer will look at you and see that you're credible. Failure to list accomplishments and value, this is critical. You definitely want accomplishments and value on your resume. That's going to be a very important selling point. It's okay to brag on a resume. I always say that. Making your resumes easy. So, how do we do that? Well, we read from left to right. So, you want to make sure that you have proper alignment. Columns and white space are okay, provided that it is done strategically. So, if you decide to use columns, make sure to equal on each side. The most acceptable fonts are Arial, not the Mermaid, Helvetica, and Times New Roman. Sometimes you can even get away with Courier, but the whole idea is that you want fonts that are readable and legible to the employer. Limit underlining and borders and bullets. So sometimes you'll see resumes, even myself have seen resumes that are not formatted properly. So they'll have over amount of use of underlining or bolds or borders that just are off. So that's very distracting. Limit it to as much as possible. You can have your headings, of course, that are bolded and underlined, but not every word in the resume. Make sure that if you do use acronyms, that these are spelled out in parentheses. This is critical because, as you know, acronyms can stand for different things. So you want to make sure that these acronyms are spelled out properly so that the employer knows what exactly you're talking about. For example, AA can mean Associates in Arts. It can also be applied to aerodynamics and anesthesiologist assistant. So we talked a little bit about keywords, and now let's talk about the position. So one of the important factors and components of a resume is having a professional summary. And the summary should entail the job description. So, for example, if you had an ad that talked about that you're an IT programmer with 7 years and you see this ad, well, then you have to customize your specific summary to the ad. So, for example, need a self directed IT programmer with 7 years experience for a server refresh project. You are the candidate. Therefore, your position here in the resume would be IT programmer with over 10 years experience in server installation and maintenance. My thorough understanding of servers has enabled me to complete system installations ahead of schedule. So it doesn't have to be that lengthy. It doesn't have to be that thorough. However, enough information where the employer can see that, oh, this person here has this amount of experience and this is the exact title that we're looking for or the position that we're looking for with the right keywords. You always want to be succinct and brief and concise in your resume. So, those are some things to really, really think about. Some other tips that you want to use with your resume are what's called word clouds. Word clouds are great because you get to actually insert your resume or use these sites as tools to help attract your resume to that employer with the given keyword. So I highly recommend checking out these three word sites such as Wordle.net, TagCrowd, and WordItOut.com. Preparing your right preparing to write your wow resume, excuse me. So the first thing is you definitely want to make sure there's focus and attention on your accomplishments, your skills, making sure that all of your past resumes, that you have all the history, that everything you need is right there in front of you prior to starting your resume. You want to make sure that you have a list of your skills. And I can't say this enough because I guarantee you this will definitely come up in an interview. You must know what your skills are. Skills equal strength. So everyone has a strength, whether that be being bilingual, writing, communication, good with hardware, good with software, training. These are things that are very important and should be spelled out clearly in a resume. Remember, this is your brag box and your opportunity to shine. So go for it. This is very critical. So please indicate your list of skills on your resume. So now we're going to get into the actual components of a resume. So again, it should have a professional summary, your accomplishments, whether that be something you got in high school, college, awards, maybe employee of the month, whatever those accomplishments are, put those in a resume. Your qualifications and skills. You have two types of skills, soft and hard. So, soft skills would be something like communication and being bilingual or personable. A hard skill would be something to the effect of typing 40 words per minute. Maybe you're skilled in building something hands on. So, something to that effect would be included in your resume. And of course, your employment history. And the employment history is always the most recent. So, we're in 2021. So, you'll be going from present all the way to the most oldest of your resume employment history. And 7 years is sufficient to include in a resume, nothing more than that. Your education should go on your resume. That would be the most recent. You would name the entity. You would also name the month and year and what you accomplished at that particular entity. Now, a word of caution. For high school, you have to be careful that you don't date yourself. So it's best to just list the high school, the diploma, and the city and state. This is because sometimes if we have too many years going for education, it can date us. So we want to be careful of that. So list the most current education you have on your resume. Any special training, definitely put that in there. And then volunteer work. I cannot stress this enough as well. Some people think because it's not a paid position that it doesn't count. No, that's not true. You want to list your volunteer experience, definitely, because that is also experience that is marketable that you definitely want to use on a resume. Accomplishments. So let's look at this. So some examples of an accomplishment. Exceeded retail scale sales goals by an average of 17% every quarter in 2019. So this is an example of an accomplishment. And if you notice, there is a verb, exceeded retail sales by goals at an average of 17% every quarter in 2019. So it's always important to remember that if your job has passed already and you're no longer working there, you want to be Very mindful of the verbs that you use. Everything should be past tense if you're no longer working there. If it's current and you're currently working, then it should be present tense. And you also want to make sure that these accomplishments and the descriptive part of your resume has what's called quantitative effects to it. So notice the numbers here: maintaining 97% satisfaction rating over a 24-month period as a customer service or customer care representative. Number speaks volumes. So it's really important that you describe what you've done in a quantitative manner. So here are some more examples of making sure that you have a list of accomplishments. Hired and managed a team of 6 data scientists to successfully deploy a new data processing platform ahead of schedule. And then we go on and so forth. Organize quarterly volunteer projects with upwards of 50 volunteers per event. The idea is simply adding numbers to whatever accomplishments that you have done in the past with your employer. Okay. Now, it's always best to identify even the smallest of percentages. So some people may think that, wow, well, I didn't really do that much at a job, but that's not true. Every little bit that you do at a job counts, no matter how small it is. It's just a matter of phrasing it. So another example here would be grew revenue for small and medium businesses clients by 10%. Better or best would be grew revenue for 15 small and medium business clients by 10% by mapping new software features as solutions to business goals. So it goes from okay to better and best. So this is a scale that you can use in order to describe what you've done. And now we're going to go into the types of resumes. So this is my favorite part right here. Okay. So the types of resumes. So as we stated earlier, that there are several ways of describing your work experience, and there is not one resume that fits all. We have chronological, functional, combination, and hybrid. Now the difference is the chronological is the typical resume that you'll see, traditional, that has month and year, from when you started working all the way to the most oldest part of your um, work experience. This is typical for traditional jobs, and maybe you've been at the company for 7 or 8 years. However, not everyone has that same type of work history. You may be new, you may be green in the field, you may have been in between jobs, maybe there's some gaps in your employment. Or in that case, functional resume would be the best type of resume for someone with a little bit of experience, someone who's been in and out of different types of jobs. Maybe there were short-term assignments. It could have been from a staffing agency. Maybe you're a student. Functional resume would be the way to go. And then you have a combination of both the functional and the chronological. This too, you can also use in a resume format. The other ways that an employer will definitely look for a resume is via attachment. So sometimes an employer will ask you to email them a resume. This is something that's important, that you email an actual document, not copy and paste it into an email. Um, One thing I will say that is very important that you follow instructions. An employer, if he has or she has instructions specific to how they want you to submit the resume, please follow those instructions to avoid your resume from being rejected. And I can't say this enough. So if the instructions state attach a PDF, attach a PDF. If it has to be scannable, then scan the resume in. These are 3 different ways that you can submit a resume to an employer. It all depends on what they want. They may even ask you to fax it. But what you don't want to do is copy and paste it into an email. Knowing your market is very critical to a resume and to your market itself. So if you are in an administrative field, you need to know exactly what makes the employer tick. A resume with with the Pacific market value in 45 seconds or less needs to answer the question, why should we hire you? So if your resume does not speak volumes, then the employer, chances are him or her will not select you as a candidate. So know your market worth, and that's going to take a lot of research and knowing you and your skill set and the current trends of an industry. Understanding your resume audience, we talked about the ATS. Like I stated earlier, this is called the applicant tracking systems. Without the right keywords, your resume will not get picked. Knowing who the person is that's going to be reviewing your resume. It can be a manager, it can be HR, it could be an office manager, a doctor, anybody in this industry that has the power to make decisions. Recruiters, hiring managers, make sure you're writing and preparing a resume according to your audience. Targeting companies are important too. So it's very important that you, again, know the industry that you want to work for. Find someone in this industry that you want to work for. Ask them questions. This all helps with the better, well written resumes. And LinkedIn is a very, very important piece to this because LinkedIn, the beautiful thing about LinkedIn is that it has numerous company websites, employers, trainings. It has different ways of connecting with different employers in the industry, and also some trends that you can follow, whatever the trends may be at that moment and where the company's headed, the mission statements and so forth. So this is a really good way to actually know what company you'd like to work for and the position that you're targeting. This says a whole lot too. What kind of targets or what kind of positions that are out there that are marketable? Creating a targeted resume, well, the best thing is customizing your job description with your skills. So that particular job description is going to be your key. Now, we're not talking about copying and pasting. We're talking about customizing that job description with what you currently have to make yourself more desirable. And you also want to make sure, again, that you quantify these results. A targeted resume will lead to a successful outcome. Okay. Now, cover letters. I can't say this enough. A cover letter is something that basically presents you to the employer. So let's look at this. So how many of you love sandwiches? If you think of a cover letter, think about two pieces of bread and then think about what's in the middle. Well, the intro is your first piece of bread. The closing is your second piece of bread. And in the middle would be your brag box, your skill set. So it's basically an introduction of you and what you have to bring to the table to the employer. So again, you have your introduction, you have your body, which is the skills. What do you bring to the table? How did you find a position? And then you have the closing. This is where you get to say, thank you for reading the cover letter, or thank you. I look forward to meeting you. Please reach out if you have any questions at a specific time with your phone number, and then you close it out. So it's your selling point. And it is actually a really, really good, strong method to stand out from the rest of everyone because some people, again, think that cover letters are not something that's used when in actuality, employers do like to read these and it's a snapshot of who they're getting to know. So I highly, highly, highly recommend using a cover letter because it really speaks volumes to an employer. Okay. What a cover letter should include, as we stated, a paragraph addressing the position, the title, the brand, enthusiasm for the position, the body. Remember, think happy sandwich is where you have your job description and address any issues or any accomplishments. Your conclusion will be just how interested you are in that position, and you're going to be closing this out. So, closing the deal. I highly also recommend bringing cards with you. Cards are another selling point in addition to your resume and your cover letter. So when you start talking about interviews and you're selected, this is something you definitely want to have in your portfolio of bags of tricks is a resume, cover letter, and business card. And the business card doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can simply have your name, your address, rather your city and state, your email, your phone number, LinkedIn, or website. and it's a good selling point to get hired. So have business cards ready to go and market yourself. Remember, networking your resume is going to be critical to any and all job opportunities you have. It doesn't just stop and end at a job board. This is going to be something that you're going to be continuously doing. And even when you are working, you always want to market yourself and stay in the know. Be in control of your job search. It's all about not so much what you know, but who you know. And you are the ultimate selling point. So, some keys to success: resumes must focus on your value to employers. Every resume must be quantified, targeted, and customized. Make sure to keep it simple, concise, and effective. A resume is your marketing tool and should really, really, really ideally always follow you. And remember that every time you change jobs, you must update your resume. And it's better to do it fresh while it's in your mind, because sometimes it can be really challenging to try to remember all of that job history when you can simply just write it down right away. And with that, I thank you so much for attending this webinar. And please, if you'd like more information, please schedule an interview or an appointment with me at the Ovid Community Library here in Ontario. And also for some more resources, please contact ceainfo@employers.org. And with that being said, I thank you so much. Have a good day.